Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, and of course, welcome guests. I do indeed love to travel. I'm that nut on the aeroplane that loves airline food. I love going anywhere and everywhere. The more jet-lagged I am, the happier I am, because that means I'm going somewhere fabulous or I'm coming from somewhere fabulous. It also means that somewhere in my travels, I'm guaranteed to pick up one or two more fabulous Facebook friends. My most recent trip to Costa Rica was no exception. For the last 3 years, we have taken my son Dean and his best buddy in the whole wide world, Corey, to Costa Rica to surf. Those boys do nothing but eat, sleep, surf, and practice their latest pickup lines on the really hot babes at the beach. 3 years ago, when we did our first trip, I sat these boys down and I explained to them that they would have to honor a very important South African tradition. This South African tradition involves climbing under barbed wire fence, stealthily stalking across the field, and slapping a cow as hard as they can. Now, between you and me, there is no such South African tradition. But frankly, the boys bought it, and that's what happens when I have an afternoon gin and tonic. So, my son Dean has grown up knowing that his parents are frankly crazy, and that South African traditions must be honored at all costs. His friend Corey, on the other hand, is a homegrown Southern California boy, and he was terrified. He was literally debilitated with fear. The first day, Dean crept under that barbed wire fence, stealthily approached a cow, and slapped it so hard, he was thrilled. Emboldened by his success, he went on to slap cows the whole vacation long. And then one day, he decided that he was going to slap a goat. So he climbed under the fence, stealthily crept along, and slapped that goat. Well, you'd be surprised to know that goats react very differently to cows. That goat turned around and chased my son across that field. He came charging towards me and took one bound right over the barbed wire fence. I looked at his face and it was thrilled. He was alive. That was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to him. He had adrenaline coursing through his veins. Corey, on the other hand, last year, finally managed to prod a pig who was sleeping. But this year, Corey said to me, "Louise, I will not allow this tradition to go unhonored. I am going to slap a cow." For some reason, this poor 18-year-old boy had it in his head that in order to be a man, he must slap a cow. Might have something to do with the fact that 3 years ago I told him that in order to be a man, he must slap a cow. So this year, that boy crept under that barbed wire fence, stealthily crept across the field, and I could see him shaking from the side. He had mustered up every ounce of fake bravado, masculine courage, and he walked over and he slapped that cow. Of course, he started crying a little as he ran back across the field. And I do carry some responsibility for that. I had forced this boy to do that. But when he came back, the look on his face, the way his shoulders swelled with pride. He spent the next week telling everybody that would listen that he had finally slapped a cow. He was a man. Watching Corey be so proud, I realized two things. One, people like me should never actually be allowed to have children. And frankly, People like me should never be in charge of other people's children. But two, I realized that if every day, each and every one of us woke up and figured out that today we were going to slap a proverbial cow, how much more alive would we be? I really try. I've jumped off a cliff, 70 foot high into the ocean, twice. I shoot at things on a regular basis. I've eaten crocodile. I drive a stick shift like I stole it. I even spent a week in Costa Rica and didn't wear high heels once. And that was out of my comfort zone, let me tell you. But as much as I try to step out of my comfort zone, we all know that each and every one of us have something, that one thing that makes our palms sweat, that makes our heart pound, and that makes our eyes get a little exorcism-like. For me, it's emotional vulnerability. I stand guard at my heart like a centurion. I am terrified of getting hurt. Corey made me realize that if I want to live the life I plan on living, if I want those real relationships that I know make life worth living, I must find a way to slap that cow. I hope you will join me tomorrow morning in waking up and finding out what your cow is and giving it a good hard whack.